Hello, I hope this story touches your hearts and makes you think. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel. Judith noticed a change in her relationship with her son, Jake, a few months ago. He began to avoid her calls, didn't show up for family dinners, and found many reasons not to visit her. It was painful for the mother, who had always had a close bond with her son. One morning, she decided to try to talk to him again. As she dialed the number and heard the standard answering machine tone, Judith had left a message. "Jake, it's Mom. I just wanted to hear how you were doing. Please call me when you have time." But there was no answer. Judith turned to her friend Mary, who had known Jake since childhood. It was Mary, with a sad expression on her face, who told her something that made Judith's heart sink. "Allah, I saw Jake last week," Mary said. "He was with Amelia, your stepdaughter, and she seems to be convincing him that you are a burden in his life." These words cut Judith like a knife. What do you mean?" She asked in surprise. She's saying that you want to control him, that you don't let him grow, and that the best thing he can do is stay away from you." Judith couldn't believe it. Her son, whom she had raised with love and sacrifice, now listened to Amelia more than she did. She remembered how much she had done for him, even after his father, her first husband, had left them. She had paid for his college tuition herself, helped him buy his first car, and always supported him in difficult times. Now she sat in the kitchen, phone in hand, not knowing what to do next. Judith began to recall how Amelia had been appearing more and more often in Jake's life lately. She had always been charming and smiling, but behind her friendliness, Judith could see something fake, though they had never had a close relationship. Although Amelia was the daughter of her second husband, Amelia seemed interested only in her own benefit. She would often ask for money for urgent matters, and promise to pay it back, but she never did. Is it possible that she wants something more than just to sever our connection with Jake? Thought Judith. Mary, who was by her side during this difficult moment, suggested that she talk to her son directly. "You need to find out the truth. If Amelia is really turning him against you, you need to know," she said. Judith decided to try again. She texted Jakey, "We need to talk. It's important. I will always be your mom, and you can always count on me. But I'm worried about us." The message went unread. Judith felt that this was just the beginning of something bigger. She would have to fight not only for her son, but also for the truth. "I will not allow anyone to destroy our family," she decided firmly, preparing for the next step. Who Judith is a woman who dedicated her life to her son Jake after a difficult divorce. She worked day and night to provide him with a decent life. Her memories of their family evenings, traveling together, and having heartfelt conversations now seemed ghostly. After she remarried, Amelia, her new husband's daughter, became part of their family. At first glance, she seemed kind and caring. But behind this mask, Judith began to notice disturbing traits of cunning and manipulation. Jake, Judith's only son, had always been kind and grateful. But with the arrival of Amelia, he changed. Her advice and influence began to shape his decisions. She supported him when he decided to leave a stable job to try to start his own business, even if Judith had her doubts. For Jake, Amelia became a kind of mentor who pushed him to make risky decisions. She convinced him that Judith was too conservative and did not understand the modern world. Amelia is a charismatic and confident woman. She easily convinced people that she was right. After her father married Judith, she began to feel jealous because of the attention Judith paid to Jake. For Amelia, Jake was a convenient piece in the game. She knew that through him she could access Judith's financial resources, especially her retirement savings. One evening, Judith decided to make a surprise visit to her son. She wanted to see him, talk to him, and find out why he was avoiding her. When she arrived at his apartment, she saw Amelia sitting at the table with Jake. She could hear fragments of their conversation through the open door. "She's only holding you back Look, Jake, Amelia said, if you want to succeed, you need to get rid of that weight. Judith froze, her heart sinking as she realized that these words were directed at her. After the door closed, Judith returned home. She could not believe that her son could listen to such advice. How could he let her say such things, she thought. She remembered all the times Amelia had come to her asking for money. She remembered how Jake had started to distance himself from her just as Amelia began to spend more time with him. The next day, Judith decided not to remain silent. She texted Jake, I need to talk to you. I know something is going on and I want to find out. We are family. Jake did not respond. This silence signaled to Judith that the conflict was just beginning. She knew she had to find a way to save their relationship and protect their future. Judith sat at home, looking at pictures of Jake. She wanted to believe that he still loved her, but Amelia's influence was becoming more and more powerful. I can't let her destroy our family, she thought, preparing herself for the next step. One morning, while going through old documents in the hope of finding answers, Judith came across a note from her late husband. It said he wanted to leave everything for his son. These words further strengthened her determination to find out why Jake had pulled away. Suddenly, she remembered a conversation with Amelia's old friend Sandra. They had once worked together, and Sandra had hinted that Amelia had always been a master manipulator. It's time to find out the truth, Judith decided and dialed Sandra's number. Sandra was happy to talk. She remembered how Amelia used to interfere in other people's relationships when she was younger. Her skills in persuasion and adjusting everything to her own interests had always benefited her. Judith, you have no idea how much she can influence people. She always got her way, Sandra said. Judith began to put together a picture. Amelia could be using Jake for her own benefit, but why? The next day, Judith decided to visit one of the banks where she had previously opened her accounts. She suspected that Amelia might have gained access to financial information. The clerk at the bank confirmed her worst fears. That it turned out that a few months before Jake had moved away, Amelia had learned about her retirement fund and potential investments. It was strange, the banker said. She even brought some documents, but was denied access. Judith realized that Amelia was acting on purpose. Judith decided to talk to Amelia's other friends and managed to get in touch with Amelia's ex-boyfriend, Brian. She always knew how to get what she wanted, said Brian. I ended up in debt because of her projects. She convinced me to take out a loan and then just disappeared. That was the last straw. Judith realized that Amelia wasn't just destroying her family, she was planning to use their financial resources for her own benefit. That same evening, Judith met Jake by chance outside a cafe. He looked confused and even tired. Mom, it's not what you think, he said, when Judith tried to start a conversation. But there was a shadow of doubt in his eyes. Judith realized that Jake didn't fully believe Amelia, but he felt he had to support her. Judith decided to tread carefully. She knew that confronting Amelia directly could destroy her relationship with her son. A lie. I have to find a way to open Jake's eyes, but do it in a way that doesn't make him feel like I'm attacking him, she thought. After speaking with Sandra and Brian, Judith felt the puzzle begin to come together. Amelia is not only manipulating Jake, but she is also deliberately trying to use her financial resources. But why? What exactly does she want? Judith asked herself as she looked through the documents. She decided to talk to the lawyer who had once helped her husband with his will. This could provide answers to the questions that plagued her. The lawyer, Mr. Phillips, greeted Judith warmly. What's troubling you, Mrs. Harper? He asked. Judith explained the situation, telling him about Jake's distancing and Amelia's strange behavior. I suspect she's planning something, she added. Phillips reviewed the will and confirmed that the property, including the retirement funds, had been transferred to Judith with a right of survivorship for Jake. If Amelia gets access to these documents, she may try to manipulate your son, he warned. When Judith returned home, she realized she needed support. She called her friend Mary, who has always been there for her in difficult times. "Hey, Mary, I don't know what to do. Amelia has alienated Jake from me, and now it seems she wants to take my money," she said, trying to hold back her tears. Mary immediately offered to help. "Judith, we'll work this out. Though let's think about what to do together." The next day, Mary came to Judith's house with a laptop. "I did a little research," she said. Mary found Amelia's social media profiles and saw strange posts about new projects she was planning to start. She wants to start a business and she needs money, Mary assumed. This information made Judith take action. She thought of another person who could help her brother Richard. He had always been skeptical of Amelia and had warned her about her manipulations. "I told you there was something wrong with her," Richard said after listening to his sister. "Give me a few days. I'll talk to some people I know." Richard worked in finance and could find out if Amelia was trying to take out loans or otherwise use Judith's financial resources. Meanwhile, Judith received an unexpected call from Jake. "Mom, Amelia says you're trying to break us up." Is it true?" he asked, sounding indignant. Judith tried to remain calm. "Jake, I just want to understand what's going on." "I think you're not seeing the full picture." But Jake quickly ended the conversation. Judith realized that her son was under Amelia's strong influence. She decided that the next step was to find concrete evidence that could open his eyes. Judith sat in her living room, surrounded by the papers she had collected in recent weeks, evidence of Amelia's manipulations, recordings of conversations with Jake, notes from her lawyer. All of this reminded her of how far their family problems had gone. Is it worth fighting anymore, or am I just wasting my time? She wondered. This was a crucial moment. Judith knew she had to make a decision that would determine her future. The next day, Judith decided to meet with her son. She invited him to lunch at a cozy cafe where they used to spend a lot of time together. "Jake, I want to talk about us," she began. Jake looked tense, but he came anyway. "Amelia said you're trying to break us up," he said, getting straight to the point. Judith took a deep breath. Son, I don't want to ruin your life. I just want you to see the truth. Look at these documents." She handed him a folder. It contained financial records that showed how Amelia had tried to access her pension fund. Jake refused to even look at it at first. "You just don't like Amelia, that's all," he said, throwing the papers away. But when Judith insisted, he began to read. His expression changed with each page. "This can't be true," he said, looking up. "It is true, Jake, and you know that I would never lie to you," Judith replied, her voice full of sadness but confidence. After a long pause, Jake finally spoke. "Mom, I didn't know about this. Amelia always said you didn't trust her. She said you wanted to control me." Judith squeezed his hand. "I just want you to be happy, but your happiness shouldn't be worth betrayal and lies," she said. This moment was the beginning for Jake to see the situation from a different angle. Judith knew that this conversation was only the first step. She couldn't force her son to change his life overnight. She returned home and began to make a plan for her future. Her life should not depend on someone else's decisions, even if it was her son. Judith decided to sell the big house and move to the cozy cottage by the lake she had always dreamed of. "Maybe this is my chance to start over," she thought. She also started writing a book about her experiences, hoping that her story could help other women in similar situations. Jake called several times, apologizing for not seeing the situation sooner. Mom, I understand if you can't forgive me," he said. "I will always forgive you, son, but now you have to make your own decisions and be responsible for them," Judith replied. These words were a new beginning for them. Judith stood outside her new home, a small but cozy cottage by the lake. She was holding a box of photos, the last thing left of her former life. "This is a new beginning," she said out loud, more to herself than to anyone else. It was a decision that did not come easy to her. In recent months, she had lost not only her financial stability but also her trust in her son. But now, standing on the threshold of a new life, she felt mixed emotions, sadness, joy, and a little excitement. The first weeks in the new home were full of worries. Judith was arranging her spacing, painting the walls, planting flowers in the backyard, choosing new furniture. She decided that this house would be a reflection of her freedom and independence. Every morning, she would drink coffee on the terrace, looking out over the water, and remember her friend's words, "Time heals, but only if you give yourself the opportunity to heal." Judith decided not to look back. One day, while scrolling through the internet looking for local events, Judith came across an ad for a writers' club. Maybe this is what I need, she thought. Judith had always wanted to write, but life and family responsibilities always came first. Now that she had time and freedom, she decided to give it a try. At the club, she met other people who shared their stories of loss, betrayal, and recovery. It was a real eye-opener for her. She was not alone in her experiences. One day, Judith received a letter from Jake. "Mom, I know I hurt you. I want to make it right if you'll let me," he wrote. These words caused her to have mixed feelings. On the one hand, she felt that she deserved an apology. On the other hand, she was afraid that this was another manipulation. Should she give him another chance? She asked herself. After much thought, Judith decided to respond. She wrote that she was ready to talk, but this time on her terms. She suggested meeting in a neutral place where they could talk frankly. Her response was short but meaningful. "I'm ready to listen to you, but things will be different now." Judith began writing a book about her experience. She hoped that her story would help other women who had faced similar difficulties. "Everyone has the right to a new beginning," she wrote in the introduction. His book became a way for her to free herself from pain and find new meaning in life. Judith decided not to dwell on the past anymore. She learned to enjoy the little things, walks by the lake, conversations with new friends, moments of silence that brought peace. As for Jake, she knew that their relationship would depend on his willingness to change. But now she was sure of one thing: her life was hers alone, and she would not let anyone else control it. Judith stood on the shore of the lake, watching the sun set over the horizon, her heart filled with hope and confidence. This is only the beginning, she told herself. Although her future remained uncertain, she knew she was ready to embrace it with open arms.